the business. I mean, we sort of switched the strategy to focus more on vegan chocolate a few years ago, and since then it's skyrocketed. But yeah, essentially we're just trying to make the best vegan chocolate out there, become the vegan chocolate brand essentially.
Performance Marketing Podcast is kindly sponsored by Nicks and Kicks, the low-calorie, no added sugar, vegan-friendly drink with a zing. At Target, we always have a fully stocked fridge of Nicks and Kicks as a healthy and tasty refreshment for the team. Try it yourself today in a Co-op or Waitrose near you, or you can buy it online at nicksandkicks.com. All right, Ed, well, thanks for joining us on the Performance Marketing Podcast. For those of you that don't know, Edd Evans is leading digital at LoveRaw. So obviously LoveRaw, one of the nation's favourite vegan chocolate brands, which can be found in not just online via your direct-to-consumer platform, but also in many, many retailers, including Waitrose, which is I'm very, very fond of myself. So Ed, do you want to add a little bit of meat to the bones there and just tell us a little bit more about your career,
Sure.
sort of leading from where you began through to where you are now at LoveRaw?
Yeah, so I actually studied journalism at uni. So I'm a fully qualified journalist, which I didn't actually pursue. So yeah, in year 3 of uni, I kind of was working on some sort of marketing projects as well as my journalism stuff, and yeah, it just had much more sort of appeal to me, more of a sort of creative. And yeah, I'm just, you know what journalism's like. It's a bit of a dog eat dog world. It's not the best represented sort of sector either. So yeah, so I was playing around with some marketing projects, really enjoyed sort of, like paid social side of things, just social in general. And then when I left uni, I went into working as like a in-house at a school trust. And then I went in agency side, so working as like a marketing exec agency side for a few years, learning the tricks of the trade, and then wound up at LoveRaw working back in-house, and I just lead up the digital team there. So there's 2 of us, but leading a lot of different digital channels. So SEO, search, SMS, email, and paid social as well. So a lot of different channels under my bracket, but it's all fun and games, all learning every day. So it's good. Keeping you
busy by the sounds of things. So I'm guessing we'll get into this a bit more later on, I'm sure, but obviously during the pandemic, you would have been, I'm sure, like direct consumer sales through the roof, and I'm sure that may have changed a bit more, a bit now. So we'll get into that a bit later on. But what is it you love about working in sort of direct consumer or in digital and e-commerce?
Well, it's just an ever evolving space, really. Like every day there's a new app, sort of, trend that's evolving, especially on the likes of TikTok, especially with different channels popping up, whether it be WhatsApp and Performance Max on Google, etc. It's just, no day is the same, and every week there's just something new to attack and a new marketplace, and just a new channel to really jump on and see what's happening, and just getting involved in the community, really, like attending conferences, chatting to people like yourself, and connecting on LinkedIn, and just staying up with content like your own, as well as different sort of, like I say, like podcast videos, etc. on YouTube. There's just a ton of learning there. I feel like it's so untapped. I think unless you're an absolute expert on and absolutely everything, which I don't really think everyone does. Like there's just so much growth to have for such for one person as well as a team. So it's really interesting space, really.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's one of those spaces, isn't it, where, as you quite rightly highlighted, there's new algorithm updates, platforms emerging like TikTok, which I'm sure we'll get onto, Performance Max, as you touched on there with Google. So it kind of levels the playing field for a lot of people, doesn't it? Because with PMax, for example, everyone's starting afresh and everyone's learning from scratch. So just coming on to, I suppose, LoveRaw, the brand itself. So could you tell us a little bit more about the brand for those that don't know? Because I've tried a few bars myself, bloody love the stuff. But what is the sort of the proposition, the USPs? What does the brand stand for? Why is it different?
Sure, glad you like it for one. That's always a good thing. I mean, everyone that tastes it, just to know, everyone pretty much loves our products. There's obviously not, some people don't like certain different things, but so I mean, the strategy behind the business, I mean, we sort of switched the strategy to focus more on vegan chocolate a few years ago, and since then it's skyrocketed. But essentially we're just trying to make the best vegan chocolate out there, become the vegan chocolate brand essentially. Should I say plant-based chocolate? We've changed our messaging slightly now, so trying to focus more on the plant-based messaging. So our chocolate's got no palm oil. There's some gluten-free options. We don't use any artificial, so we call it nonsense. But just really good tasting vegan chocolate. I know some of the other brands, I'm sure I'm allowed to say, in the space aren't so good. That some of the bigger players are getting involved now as well, like the Cadbury's and Galaxy, etc. But we're really just trying to be the best option out there, and I think we're doing a pretty good job, hence the growth. And you've tried it, so it must be doing some good.
I've worked my way around a few chocolate bars in my time, so I like to think I know my stuff. But it's really good. So just thinking about sort of the business then, and sort of what the vision for the business is, because I know you said you're looking to make the sort of the biggest and best sort of vegan chocolate or plant-based chocolate out there. Is there a sort of roadmap for the business, and what's the ambition? Is it sort of are you trying to get to a certain revenue, or are you trying to scale the e-com direct to consumer arm of the business, or launch into retail, a bit of both? What's the sort of plan for the business?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, for first off, we're just trying to really hit that market share in our sort of category. So at the minute, we're kind of a second player in the space. There's a big sort of corporate structure, which I'm not going to name, but there's a big corporate structure who's currently sort of heading up that chart. But we're closing the gap. I mean, we got 250% growth over the last few years. So since 2019, that's set to double by the end of this year. So we're really getting up there. But yeah, that capitalising on that market share in the vegan category for one, and then as the sort of market evolves, which it will, vegan chocolate veganism is becoming a massive thing now. Really capitalising on that, the wider market. So chocolate, gifting chocolate, etc. And from our data that we can see, there's more and more people lean on that flexitarian, vegetarian, vegan diet, and we're just going to ride that wave and see where it takes us, really.
Cracking. It's all very exciting, and it's like you say, there's definitely a huge and growing market for it, for sure. So looking at, I guess the business is split into sort of two arms, really, as we touched on there, the sort of direct consumer e-com side of things, but also you're in retail too. So what is the sort of split in terms of revenue? Are you sort of, I'm assuming it's slightly bigger in retail?
Yeah, sure. So it's around about a 10% split in favour of retail, like you say. So around 10% online. So yeah, like you say, we were listed in Waitrose, WH Smith. There's some big news in terms of landing some more retailers in the pipeline, which I'm not going to go into. But there's a lot peeled. Yeah, there's a lot on the horizon. We're on obviously the vegan kind online, and then sort of D2C. So we're operating on Shopify. Which is the 10% of our business, which also includes Amazon, on Fair, Anchor Store. There's a lot of different marketplaces that we manage online. But in terms of retail, we're quite widely available, but obviously we're still looking to land those bigger retailers where we'll really get some eyes on the brand.
Very exciting, very exciting. So we'll definitely stay tuned to hear about where those new drops are coming and which stores. But just thinking about the sort of 10% split you mentioned there between sort of retail and online, has that changed during COVID? Because as we all know, the boom in Amazon and people not being able to leave their house during the pandemic, everyone was buying online. And I know you offer a subscription model as well in terms of vegan chocolate. So were more people, I assume, buying online during the pandemic, and has that sort of now returned to pre-pandemic in terms of buying levels? How's it looking in terms of that?
So we saw really good growth online last year. The revenues through the roof. Obviously, naturally, Facebook was at its absolute peak in terms of get an ad up and get 100 ROAS on an ad, and obviously no one could go out, so everyone was just shopping online. A lot more time to sort of shop and I think a lot of people were experimenting a lot more as well in lockdown. And across the sort of COVID, the COVID situation, but that's kind of evened out a little bit more now. So revenues dropped slightly, but still really up there in terms of where we want to be. And then naturally, more people going into stores, it's kind of balanced out, like you say. But last year was a really good year for online, naturally, as a lot of brands, I'm sure, experienced as well. That's
great. So in terms of just coming back, obviously, it's been the last 2 years have been pretty. No one could really plan for it, and there's no real precedent there. It's hard to measure it against anything else, that's for sure. But how is there anything that you've learned as a brand or as a marketer in the last couple of years with everything that's happened and all the different changes in platforms and buying behaviour? Is there anything that you've really learned that serves you well now?
Yeah, so we actually, I'm sure my fellow colleagues won't mind me saying this, but we actually had a bit of a learning earlier in the year. So we, I'm not sure whether you saw this, but we launched a big mockumentary campaign called Where Are They Now?
Oh, no.
So it's a bit of a parody on sort of the hero sort of figures from yesteryear, so like the Milky Bar Kid and the Cadbury's Gorilla. And we basically did a bit of a parody around Where Are They Now, and the content was absolutely brilliant. It was laugh out loud, and we all loved it. But the video, I think we just learned that we wasn't really trying to solve an actual problem with the video and the campaign. I think that was one of the issues as well. And like the video was actually 7 minutes, and we posted it across like Instagram and stuff, and it probably wasn't optimized for the channels.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably one of the biggest learnings since I've been at LoveRaw, for sure. You know, having a campaign, or having, you know, an idea, etc., that fits a solution. People weren't really concerned around like where are they now. You know, it's the, you know, they're just figures from the past, or they're just, you know, something to joke on now and then. But you know, that actual issue of, you know, the whole where are they now, it wasn't really fitting a need. So yeah, that's probably one of the main things. You know, really flesh out an idea and what problem are you trying to solve, because you know, people haven't got the attention span, and you know, to actually engage in an idea that doesn't really solve their problems, you know. So that's probably one of the biggest learnings, I'd say. But other than that, just on the Facebook end. So yeah, a big challenge for me, obviously being a performance marketer, is just the difference in how, you know, I think I've heard an analogy before about how previous, you know, you was sort of operating as a football reference in a kind of like League One, League Two. You could get away with the, you know, pretty, not a poor ad structure, but you could get away with, you know, pretty subpar sort of, you know, you could get an ad up there and it, you know, it performed pretty well. But now you're kind of operating at the Champions League, Premier League, like you're seeing that, you know, you're seeing brands dial back their spend all the time, testing new things. So yeah, that space has become a lot more complex, and it's just kind of keeping up with the trends, keeping up with information. You'll stay ahead of the game, but it has been very tough to accommodate that change.
So there's some really great points you've made there in terms of, I think firstly, just to address the content point there, I think it's, you know, creating one piece of content that's 7 minutes long, posting it across many channels. I guess really you want every piece of content to feel native to the platform, isn't it? Like that lo-fi editing technique for almost TikTok and YouTube being slightly nicely, you know, better produced and longer formats. That's a really good point there. And a lot of these things you don't know till you test, isn't it? So obviously, I mean, testing is really important, as you guys have obviously done there. And thirdly, in terms of the, you know, making the structure of your ad accounts, I think as you quite rightly highlighted, maybe 5 years ago it was much easier, where it was maybe a less competitive space, and now Google's, that I'm sure we'll touch on later, has taken, you know, a lot of control away from marketers with PMax and other channels, with Facebook and Meta being very AI driven now as well. So yeah, I think it is, in terms of structuring that ad account and continually optimizing, it's one of those fundamental points, but still rings true today, that's for sure. So if we're coming back to LoveRaw then, in terms of your target audience, so I'm assuming the answer is vegans, but what is your target audience? How do you define it, and how are you sort of targeting them on paid channels?
Yeah, so I think if you're going to pick out sort of a key audience, if you know you're trying to make your own sort of, you know, avatar who's going to be your perfect audience, I think it probably generally female, aged around the sort of, you know, 25 to 35 mark. Not necessarily vegan, so we quite like to target those who are kind of on the fence. So a bit like myself, who kind of like, you know, dabbles in a bit of a sort of, you know, vegan things here, vegetarian things there, some meat here and there. Okay. So yeah, it's kind of just riding that wave of people being a bit more conscious about their sort of diet. But I mean, if we're only going to target vegans, we're going to pigeonhole ourselves a little bit. I think we've already kind of captured that vegan market now. I hope so. Anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like we've done quite a good job in sort of capturing the vegans, winning them over. I think for now it's kind of bridging that gap into people who want to explore, you know, people who, I don't know, want to use Oatly in their coffee instead of you know, normal milk, or use a vegan cheese for once in a while. Just people who are trying to, you know, flexitarian, I guess that's the term is. So yeah, I mean, you know, they tend to live in a sort of major city. You know, we see a lot of people from London, Manchester, Liverpool, Birmingham, etc. So yeah, I think that kind of, I don't want to pigeonhole people in that respect, but people who live in cities tend to be a bit more sort of experimental.
Completely.
Than someone who's probably living next to a dairy farm.
So. Well, I'm actually in Cornwall, so I know exactly what you mean. Down in Cornwall, I won't speak ill of us Cornish, but we're a little bit less open-minded, I would say. And certainly in cities, you do have that. People are a bit more experimental for sure.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I'd probably say that's the kind of ideal audience. And we just use your standard sort of audience targeting on Facebook, Google, etc. to try and target those, and we see decent growth.
Cracking. So we're kind of touching on it now, but my next question was going to be about strategy, really. So in terms of how, if we're looking at the marketing funnel in, you know, its basic form of attention, interest, sort of consideration, intent, and finally sort of conversion or purchase, what are the channels that LoveRaw are using at each stage of that buying journey to reach its target audience, because I'm sure you'll be using remarketing tactics and at the bottom of the funnel, and I know we mentioned SEO earlier to try and get people in that sort of, maybe the people are sort of in that discovery phase. But what are the channels and tactics you're using currently to sort of build your D2C side of the business?
Sure, yeah. So organic social is a big sort of push for us on the terms of the awareness point at the top of funnel. So we're investing quite a lot of time into TikTok now, trying to get really set up on Pinterest as well. I think we've got around 78k on followers now on Instagram, so that's growing nicely as well. So that paired with your SEO, so we're investing quite a lot in SEO as well. Really trying to get some presence at the vegan chocolate keyword. Really trying to boost our presence there, and I think that will naturally come as we land the big retailers as well. People will start getting their eyes on the brand, seeing it coming in. So that's kind of on the very sort of top of funnel awareness, and then just like say retargeting through paid social, paid search, obviously doing that at the top of funnel as well, paid search, through shopping campaigns, etc. And then on the bottom of the funnel, really we're just really heavy on our eCRM. So we do a lot of email activity, a lot of SMS as well, automations and campaigns. We like to trial some sort of CRO tools that we've got some trials ongoing and different little tactics here and there. And then like retargeting on paid social, like I say, through TikTok, Meta as well. I say Meta now instead of Facebook. It's a bit of a weird one.
It's false of habit, isn't it? I'm always saying Facebook, Meta.
I'm starting to get in that flow now of saying Meta, but that's really our sort of channel split, as well as influencer, which is quite a big part of our strategy as well. Like community building is a big thing we're focused on now. So we've got we're building a loyalty program for the B2C side, and then for influencers we've got an ambassador program going as well. Great. So we're seeing really good growth there as well. I think it's just that community as sort of I don't want to say the paid channels are slowing down a little bit now, but it's just that I think community going forward is absolutely key. These brands that have got a really good hub around them are the ones that are going to win in the future. So we're using the full marketing mix, as you can see. So a lot of channels to manage, a lot of things to do, a lot of optimizations to make. But it's all fun.
I like the way you mentioned obviously like the sort of community building there. We had a guest on, Charlotte, actually the other day, who talked about brand building, top of the funnel activity, giving you that longevity, and how brand and performance have to kind of work together there. So that's a really interesting point. Is there a channel for you that stands out, looking at focusing on particularly your sort of D2C arm here? Is there a channel in particular that you stands out as your best performer, like in terms of acquiring new customers to the subscription model of the business? Which channel for you stands out as your number one performer, or is there a sort of mix of the couple?
So for the subscription arm, I'd definitely say email. So having some replenishment email flow set up on that end. So when someone purchases more than twice, just giving a little prompt to have a subscription rather than revisiting the website every time. That tends to work quite well. Paired with other flows that we can do through Recharge, which is the subscription arm that we use. But I'd generally say that SMS has been a real revelation for us. We started using SMS Bump by Yotpo a few months ago. And it was relatively just straightforward to set up. I mean, some of these platforms sometimes they take a lot of different loopholes and stuff to get it set up on there. But it was almost sort of like just go from the outset really. So we've seen a really good return on that. I think it probably has taken away some of the light from email. So it's more of an initial. So how I like to see it is more of, so you join a welcome flow. You want to get that initial straight. If it's a discount that's been focused anyway, you want to get that initial prompt on your phone rather than go to email, which might be more sort of longer consideration. But we've got a lot of different flows. So we've got ones for reviews, ones for recharge, which are the subscriptions, replenishment ones like abandoned cart, welcome, which every week the ROI is like touching 80, like in terms of just spending £40 and generating like $2,000 back every week. So it's been a bit of a revelation. I think, like I say, I think that's probably taken some revenue from email, but and then again, email is just absolutely king for us really. So we've got such an engaged audience. Our open and click rates are really high on every email we send. Pretty much send a lot of sort of we know exactly when to send promos, so promo content as well as like recipes and just general news. And it's been a really good for us to like see the mix of it. I'd like to see them integrate a little bit better, but that kind of blend of SMS and email has just worked so well for us, and it's something we'll keep looking to build in.
That's great. Your first guest has mentioned SMS as well, so I'm really excited by that because I think it's an underused technology personally. But I wonder how do you scale that? Because you've got, I guess, because the ROI or ROAS is so high, that's incredible. But I guess to scale it, you need more telephone numbers, so it's quite almost trying to acquire those through more sales and top of funnel activity, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think as well, like I think, you know, as email has become that sort of, you know, it's still a very good channel for a lot of brands like ours, but it is becoming a bit congested now. But I think SMS will become the same. You know, I'm getting more and more, you know, marketing messages now. I think, I don't know if it's just because I subscribe to so many to see what they're doing, but I think it will. So I initially was looking at a WhatsApp platform before, which I think obviously will become like SMS, a bit of a bigger player in the marketing space. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that grows. Like you say, more phone numbers, but again, it's still a bit of an intrusive platform. If more and more brands are coming to use it, it's probably going to get a bit congested like anything. So yeah, I'm like we said before, ever evolving. So we'll see what's next, and it'd probably take the space of SMS.
That's it, isn't it? There's all, as we talked about, a lot of channels to manage there. So no, really excited to see where that one goes. Just touching on sort of customer data. So obviously, I don't know what email platform you use, but the likes of Klaviyo and, you know, YotPay using for SMS, and, you know, Pinterest, TikTok, there's Google Analytics. There's so much data available, you know, overwhelming amounts at times. Is there anything over the last 12 months in terms of your customer data that you found super interesting? Like, have you seen any trends in that data and buying behaviour? Or is there anything that stands out to you there?
There's nothing that stands out off the page. I think for us, it's really allowed us to see what our audience wants at certain times. So we can be really sort of segmented, as you know, through Klaviyo, which is email that we use, and SMS, and we can see. So at this point in the month, they want a promo. At this point in the month, they want a recipe. It's allowed us to really sort of scale up our content calendar in terms of our ECRM, which obviously we said works so well. But yeah, on the sort of paid side of things, we've just tested a lot of different creatives. So I mean, it's very hard to see what works now on Facebook with all the different tracking problems. You know, I'm a little bit old fashioned. You know, I heard someone say before, I'm probably take the same old fashioned approach, but you know, sort of the attribution back in the day in terms of TV ads and stuff, it wasn't there. So like, you got to think it's obviously it's good to see the data of what's working, but you can't get too in the weeds about sort of is Facebook right, is analytics right, and I think some of these platforms that are emerging, you know, sort of your data analytics platforms that are offering a new solution are great, but I like to look a lot at like what creatives are working based on the sort of click-through rates. I've created a bit of a thumb-stop ratio sort of metric that I use on Facebook, which is quite good. And just seeing what works there. And I think what we found is the sort of really authentic sort of unboxing, unwrapping style of content works really well for us. So yeah, I think that's probably what a really big learning, where we think as a brand, and I'm sure a lot of brands do, this polished looking creative that looks like fresh out of the box at a new studio, looks brilliant. It's more like we touched on the start with TikTok. It's more that sort of raw unboxing, testimonials type of video that really works well. Like people can just see straight through an ad, I think, nowadays.
Completely.
If it pops up on Instagram now and it just doesn't look like it's authentic to the platform, I'm probably not going to be interested. But yeah, obviously it depends on the brands. But if you see that very authentic sort of exactly in the fashion it would be on the platform, it works so much better. That's a big learning we've found for sure.
That's in fact a lot of our clients as well are very much the same, where the sort of lo-fi editing techniques, or it really has to feel native to the platform, as you say. I know, because a lot of people are on Meta, to get the name right, scrolling, looking at their auntie's birthday or photos of cats and dogs and things. So as soon as you get a very overproduced commercial, it's quite easy to skip past. Whereas if you can get something that feels like an unboxing, very, very natural, that's for sure. So are you using Performance Max at all at LoveRaw?
Yeah, so we've tested a little bit. So I've got some campaigns running now. In terms of how it's going, I'm not too sure, as I'm sure a lot of brands and agencies are finding. I think it's one of those where I'm always a bit sceptical and probably a bit cynical as well in terms of.
But I think it's right to be with this because it's taking control away from us.
Yeah, exactly. So and is it just a tactic that some of these channels are using just to, especially Google, are using just to maximise your spend and not get the most return? So yeah, I'm quite old fashioned again in terms of having full control. I mean, I trust what Google are doing. Obviously, they're the experts in this. But I found it a little bit hard to sort of really get what you want out of it in terms of sort of the creative standpoint, as well as, I'm not really sure where to go at the moment. So it's kind of a test and learn phase at the moment, but I'm sure we'll come on the end of it. And I mean, Smart Shopping was performing so well for us. It's kind of, that's gone now.
Yeah.
and it's like, yeah, I'm not too sure what to do now. So yeah, it's going to be one where I just keep testing and see what works. But
that's it. I think, we work with a lot of clients in e-commerce, and they're experiencing exactly the same challenges. Really, we're having a lot of control taken away from us, and we're finding some clients and some brands, it's working tremendously straight off the bat, but others, there's sometimes there are too many asset groups, there's not enough spend you can get through the account to get the traffic, and not wanting to speak ill of Google, sorry Google, but it is a bit of a nightmare, and it's really hard to control those things sometimes. So sure, yeah. I think a lot of testing and measuring and keeping an eye on it from the short term for sure is the only thing we can do as marketers. So
yeah, definitely.
How do you find in terms of, because I know you're obviously stocked in retail too, so do you find that is there any element of cannibalization in terms of you bidding against your the likes of Waitrose or other brands that are selling online?
I think that there's sometimes a danger of that. I think we kind of try and avoid that just through the products that we actually offer on our website. So there's sort of variations, and not necessarily the actual individual products, but how they're presented, how they come, and what kind of bundles you can get is completely different to what you can get elsewhere. Yeah. So that goes across, Amazon as well. So we don't sell anything on Amazon in terms of the variety pack, etc., that we wouldn't on the website. So that's kind of how we navigate that. But naturally, when you've got like the vegan kind and Waitrose selling your products online, but they're only very sort of individual individual bars, and they're probably a lot more expensive than getting a bundle on our website. So, and we can offer offers and discounts and different sort of mix and match that they can't as well. So that's how we navigate that issue.
That's a good point, actually. I didn't think about that, because you'd have naturally the subscription is unique to LoveRaw, of course. Mm-hmm. Just talking about offers and discounts there, do you use, in terms of what you're testing online, are you testing sort of like price elasticity and different promotions and offers, and how do they perform for you? Do you find offers and promotions a great way of acquiring new customers when they're kind of on that decision making process, they can't quite weigh up what they want to do?
Yeah, I mean, as an FMCG brand, especially a chocolate brand, when I just pictures when you go into the supermarket, I'm always naturally gravitating to that one that's got like a yellow sticker, that offer on it.
Always, it's just human nature.
Yeah, it's just the nature of the category, So and how the D2C space is moving anyway. So yeah, we have a welcome offer, a 20% off your first order welcome offer, which works really well. Like, how many times that code's been used, and obviously we're giving margin around the first purchase, but in most cases we're happy to do that to get the people into our ecosystem. We know how good our product is, so we know they're going to come back for more.
Yeah, of course.
I would anyway. So so that we offer that on the very top of funnel, which is a really good attraction for a lot of new customers who are a little bit on the fence. And then so like I say, you've been an FMCG brand. Our email database is almost always hanging on for that little promo.
For sure.
And we do play around with how we structure them. So it could be, I found sort of money off rather than percentage off works quite well sometimes. Just to change the messaging from like 25% to £5 off. That monetary value has a little bit more of a pull.
Feels a bit more tangible, I think, doesn't it? Like £5 actually means something.
Yeah, exactly. People can picture that sort of money and
that saving.
Exactly. And then so in terms of other offers, so I heard on a podcast today, it's about keeping things really sort of simple. Anything that's, especially around the sort of Black Friday, Cyber Monday period. I mean, anything that's too complex, people just aren't going to go through with it. So we try anything that's sort of buy one get one free, buy one get one half price doesn't tend to work as well for us. That sort of flat percentage discount. But another thing we're exploring as well is sort of tiered offers. So £5 off, £15 off, etc. And then also like subscription offers, so free shipping on all orders, or a discount for your first order works quite well as well. And then also just pairing up with other brands, so collaborating with protein brands or coffee brands, and doing something different. So it's still sort of an offer wrapped up in more of like a gift with purchase, as opposed to like giving away margin. People love a freebie. People love an offer on another brand that I'm sure they like as well. So we find that works as well. But natural to the space, but promos do work quite well for us. But we do try and sort of not get too bogged down by them. Try and keep them, pretty exclusive. Not pushing them out every week, just to try and keep, obviously not give away too much margin, and also just don't want people to become too reliant on them as well. Not purchase until they get that promo. So it's worked quite well.
Cracking. So as we sort of hurtle towards the end of the year here now, sort of Q4, what can we expect to see from LoveRaw in sort of the last half of the year, or a bit further ahead to 2023? Have you got any new exciting product launches or new channels you're experimenting with, or what's sort of in store for us?
Yeah. So I can't say too much, but obviously we've got a nice Black Friday campaign coming up very soon, as we all know. So one of the biggest times of the year for everyone. So as well as Christmas as well. So we're working on hopefully some sort of unique Christmas products if we can. Nothing too sort of MPD wise, but hopefully try and get some nice little Christmas bundles, etc. set up. And then as I mentioned previously, we've got some really big retailers on the horizon. Won't drop any names or be in trouble, but so there's a lot to come in that space as well. And there's not going to be any new products this year, but next year's looking absolutely rammed with just
you can have your hands full.
Anything that you can imagine that can be turned into vegan chocolate we're working on. So expect all that. And then
brilliant.
From a gifting point of view as well, next year I think we're really going to put some focus into sort of hopefully getting an advent calendar sorted, an Easter egg hopefully, and just tapping into that space a bit more. We haven't really, we've got a gifting sort of range that's live now with beams, but for the most time we haven't really delved too much into creating our own sort of bespoke advent calendar or Easter egg, so it'd be quite nice to do that as well.
Very exciting. So as we draw to the end of the episode, we've got a couple of questions here for you. We've got this new segment, peak performance or peak personal performance. So we've got 5 questions in terms of how you structure your day and get the most out of your day. And you may not have an answer for all of them, and that's totally cool if you don't. But firstly, what is your favourite book and why?
Yeah, so I'm not going to say I'm an avid reader, but I try and read as much as I can. So my favourite book is, I'd say it's a bit of an awkward title. So it's the Almanac of Naval Ravikant. I don't know if you know Naval Ravikant. So he's quite big on Twitter. He's been on Joe Rogan's podcast quite a few times as well. He's like a serial investor entrepreneur, and he's got this almanac, which is essentially just like he's sort of it's not like a step-by-step guide, but it's everything he basically believes you need to do in order to attain wealth and happiness, as well as happiness, which obviously don't always come hand in hand, but it's just really, he just drops so much value in there, and I think I highlighted the entire book, so I'd recommend that. It's probably my most gifted, borrowed book for sure.
Really?
Give it a good review on Goodreads as well. But that's probably the one to go to for sure. Yeah, the whole thing. But if you lend mine, the whole thing's annotated and highlighted, so you probably won't get much out of it.
We'll have to check that one out though, but that sounds super interesting. Secondly, do you have a morning routine? Not everybody does, but you may do.
Yeah, so I get up around sort of 6 o'clock for my dog.
Yeah, of course.
I'm either woken up by my dog or the alarm clock's there. So I give her a walk for about 45 minutes when I first wake up, come back, give her a feed and sort her out, and then I get ready for work and drive into work while listening to a podcast mostly, or talk sport if there's football on. And then get into work, and I really like sort of time blocking and using sort of Monday.com, Asana, etc. to get those tasks ready for the day. And I find time blocking really useful, so doing that whilst having a coffee and a bit of granola. So not the most exciting morning routine, but
efficient though. You've got to be done. I'm with you on Monday.com, by the way. Great talk. So number 3, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give to your 18-year-old self?
Yeah, so I think really for a few years now, I've kind of, I don't want to say I've beat myself up or I've got too deep into the work, but I think I'll just tell myself that some things can actually wait until Monday or wait a few days. Don't kill yourself to do everything. So
for sure.
I heard a really good quote recently on the Stephen Bartlett podcast. I'm sure everyone listens to, but it was from Gary Neville, I think it was, and it was sort of like. I think he said, did you expect every day to be an amazing day? Which I think is really interesting, because, you go to work thinking you're going to get everything done and it's going to be the best day ever. And if you have the slightest thing goes wrong or you don't get that thing done, you kind of beat yourself up and, you worry about the fact somebody's getting delayed. But it's just one of those sort of time management sort of pieces. And just, you live to work, you don't work to live. So
that's so true. And I think also it's easy to forget that in our world, because performance marketing channels are always on. E-commerce, people can buy any time of day, so it is hard. You can get sucked into that, I think, sometimes, and particularly working from home as well, sometimes it's hard to draw the lines of distinction between work and actually personal time. So I think that's a really good piece of advice. What's the one app that makes your life easier?
So So definitely, I mean, we had some issues with dog care and doggy day. Borrowing my doggies as we come into the forefront. So we've got someone who looks after our dog. So through that's really good.
That's a great tool.
In terms of actual work, but yeah, like I say, Monday.com. I use Asana for personal stuff, and then Monday.com for work. But yeah, just time blocking or task management. Coming from an agency side, being like a project manager, account manager, I'm very sort of task oriented. So I like to make sure there's got like a really clear checklist and being held accountable for different things. But other than Borrow My Doggy, which is a great app if you've got a dog, definitely Monday.com.
Cracking. And then last question. So who or what inspires you?
Yeah, so I think from a sort of general point of view, I mean, like my parents, like really sort of both inspire like really hard workers, really instill like a really good work ethic in me and my brother. Which is really thankful for. But I think from a sort of marketing, going back to the sort of D2C front, I think Represent, I'm actually wearing a t-shirt now.
Nice.
Represent, so the brothers there who run that brand, like they really understand that community aspect, and they've just built like an absolute monster, I think, of a brand, just so infectious. Everyone who's purchased or is involved in the brand just knows the power that the draw that brand has. So yeah, they're really good ones to look at in terms of inspiration for marketing and how to run a D2C brand. But yeah, I think other than that, you got your likes of sort of Steve Jobs and Simon Sinek and those figures who are really inspiring as well.
That's cracking. Well, it's been great to chat to you, and I'm very excited to see what sort of the rest of the year and next year and beyond has in store for LoveRaw. If people want to find you on LinkedIn or connect with you, where can they find you online? Yeah,
so LinkedIn's Edd Evans, so Edd Evans, and yeah, that's mostly where I hang out in terms of the sort of D2C space, etc. Looking for inspiration and making some comments on a few things. But yeah, that's where you can find me on LinkedIn.
Sounds good. Ed, thanks so much for your time. It's been a great conversation.
Cheers.
Cool.